along the way. So we selected ServiceNow in 2012. Prior to that, we were using Numara that was bought by BMC. We were essentially only using it as a trouble ticket platform, incident management only. We decided we would look at the market. Of course, back in 2012, had the legacy behemoths, HP OpenView. I don't even think they call it OpenView anymore. It's like HP BTO, Business Technology Optimization, or something like that now. Had these really big and ugly legacy behemoths, and there were a bunch of new, mainly SaaS offerings starting up. Of course, it's operating expense instead of capital expense. Long story short, it was old and busted, or the new hotness. What we saw in ServiceNow was the SaaS model. At the time, it was one price for everything, upgrades. Now ServiceNow has some add-on pricing, of which we have adopted none of those. We still just buy the base package. Comes with a lot of pre-configured ITSM function, incident knowledge problem, service catalog. It also provided us a platform to configure and customize. I'll show you, that's where most of our growth has been using this as a platform for rapid workflow development. And we found it had a lot of ability to integrate and automate with other systems. In that sense, Utah State, the public, the state of Utah had already bought in at scale, roughly 10 times our entry. We were able to leverage their contract for better pricing. ServiceNow was charging about $105 per seat versus $55 per seat at the state contract. I'll talk to you a little bit later about pricing and how that works, because that was one of our great fears in adopting this platform is, can we afford it? Can it scale with a licensing cost? We had a pretty good experience at ServiceNow conference, Knowledge Now. We liked the quick-in subscription-based model, except there was a lot of push, and ServiceNow actually required this, to have some consulting and implementing service. The quote was, look, this can be as complex or simple as you need it to be. Like what? You a blank art canvas? I can run down to Michael's Art and buy a blank canvas and get some paintbrushes, but to actually produce something I want to put on my wall, how hard is that? And how much skill is going to be required? The initial ServiceNow interface was not that great. We were convinced initially that we needed help. When we deployed this in 2012, it partnered with a consultant that we spent about $100,000 on and 520 hours to help us work through business process. One of the things that I believe is still necessary with any implementation of any software or any tool is you have to spend a little bit of time, okay, not a little bit of time, you need to spend a lot of time on business process analysis. What is it that you're trying to accomplish with this tool? Are you just going to take existing processes and map them one for one into this tool? I find that that's generally a recipe for failure. You just can't take an existing paper-based process because it's not going to work the same way electronically. For example, with paper processes, people are used to changing the workflow. Well, this person approved it this time, this person's not here, I'm just going to walk over and have this person do it. You have to redesign business processes to work well electronically. Even service desk or ITIL processes, you really have to spend a lot of time talking with people. And so most of this time was facilitated discussion around ITIL processes inside of our service desk. And we were looking at only internal IT ERP here. Essentially just incident change knowledge, basic CMDB, a little bit of service catalog in this. What we began to discover was that the IT stuff worked okay. I mean, you know, trouble tickets, escalations, but we found most of the power and most of our value that we're now getting out of ServiceNow was our ability to use it as a BPM platform. Any workflow development we now do exclusively on ServiceNow. We also found it was able to scale very, very quickly to extend this beyond IT into HR, facilities, registrar's office for both their own help desk or call, you know, center type support, as well as knowledge base and workflow. Rather than talk about this, I'll show you. One of our big concerns was, look, as we grow this outside of IT, this could get expensive. Holy cow, expensive. I mean, imagine if we have to pay $55 a month, which was our original licensing pricing, for everybody who needed to approve something in a workflow. Wow, how expensive can that get, and how fast? What we found is that if people did workflow or did approvals through email, we didn't have to buy them a license. And so that's initially how we did a lot of this to avoid a lot of the expense. ServiceNow had a lot of automation plugins for provisioning, deprovisioning of, say, virtual server infrastructure. We chose not to buy that. That was fairly expensive. ServiceNow automatically allows us to, say, execute scripts in PowerShell or Microsoft platforms. We can trigger APIs and other platforms without these ServiceNow add-ons, and so we stayed with the very lowest licensing level. This is our costs up front. Then I'll get into the demo here. Some of the things that we've done. We started with about $55 a month fulfiller licenses, or about $43,000 a year to get most of IT in. That was an initial 3-year contract. Remember, this was just IT. We grew that to about 115 licenses in the first year, and then we just held flat because we were using this as an IT-only tool. Then we started getting worried. Contract renewal comes up, right? What's one of the big risks with SaaS providers? Hey, you guys are really liking this. It's now time for contract renewal. You guys were getting a really great deal, right? We started getting nervous. I mean, you start developing on these platforms, and what are the risks? What if they decide to double your fee during the contract renewal? Because they were charging most people $105. We were getting $55. We didn't have the volume. We don't want it to go here. Maybe we shouldn't put all our chickens in one basket. We were looking at other business process management solutions. Eventually, we just said, look, ServiceNow, if you want us to use you, we can't afford the kind of pricing that you're charging corporate. We can't pay for every approver at $55 a month. That's insane. Are you crazy? Pay $55 a month for somebody just to hit okay, I approve this transaction. That's insane. So we negotiated an elimination of approver licenses. We convinced ServiceNow that if we move this to a campus-wide BPM platform, that we would get fulfiller level licensing at $17.72 per seat per month instead of $55. Now, the people who need that type of license, these are the people who actually create or maintain or do major reporting in the background. We do not have to buy a license for users. We do not have to buy a license for students. We don't have to buy a license for faculty and staff who are sort of end users. So if you're applying and submitting leave, if you're an approver in a queue, it doesn't require a license. Only if you're actually creating, doing major reporting, an administrative role or a back-end role. We were super impressed with that pricing. And so we committed to scale up based on those licensing concessions. This allowed us to extend workflow development into HR and finance. We funded these licenses centrally. We moved from, long story short, this year we're now at 605 licenses. We're spending about $180,000 a year on the platform. And we expect this will be about flat for Utah State. This gives us enough licenses to cover all back-end needs and essentially turns it into a site license for Utah State at this point. Just giving you the pricing stuff up front. Current experience is feeling good in 3 years because we just renewed again, got a new 3-year contract starting now. July 1. Are we, after 3 years, what happens? This is a concern, I think, with all subscription-based software model. But so far, so good. So let me pop out of that and show you a little bit about what we're doing in it. Okay, you can see my web browser up there, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you go to servicenow.usu.edu. You can search a public knowledge base right there. It's not much. This is mainly an intranet service at this point. So we log in. We do have CAS integration on the login. What you're seeing there is Duo for dual factor authentication. We are starting this in July. We are now we are buying a bit of a tangent. We are buying Duo off the internet to Net Plus pricing for all employees, just the faculty and staff piece. We are going to be implementing that comprehensively in the next fiscal year for all employees, for all major services. And so we have that deployed now. In ServiceNow, it'll be deployed for Box. It'll be deployed for Banner, our ERP, and a number of services that will roll out. But that's another item. So when you log in, the portal essentially looks like this. I hope it's visible there to you. So you've got a My Activities on the left, service catalogs in the middle, knowledge bases on the right, and a general global search on the top. So if you know what you're looking for, say new network, Jack, you can click on that and it will list knowledge articles and our service catalog items. There's install and activate new Jacks. That will take you to click on that. That will take employees to essentially a form to begin a workflow on this. We've got the global search. You can also click on service catalogs, and you can drill down into various areas. For example, clicking on information technology, you've got email services, telephone services, network services. So if I click on telephone services, want to get a new telephone, request, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. That was me learning Apple Force Touch. Sort of a pain in the butt. All right. Yeah, I want to go to the page, not preview it. So this is a standard form that someone could use to create a new telephone request. You can select a telephone model in here. We have all of the pricing for our phones in here. You can click on, not Force Touch, sorry, new trackpad. Click on comparing phones. It'll show the models. We do inventory inside of ServiceNow, so these change to out of stock or order now automatically based on inventory. When they're out of stock, or when stock gets down to a certain trigger level, it automatically generates a workflow to order more phones of that type. And people can jump right here back to the order now form, which will just take them back to this form here. As you fill in, billing information. By the way, we're using ServiceNow for 100% of our IT invoicing. So all our invoicing on all of these service catalog items, this is integrated into our ERP, our Banner Finance record, automatically. I'll show you a little bit of that. When you type a number in here, you can type an employee name. As I start typing Eric, it brings in anybody in the university that uses the name Eric, or I can type in a university ID, and it will, trim those things down. It will auto-populate information. Some of it, we're keeping track of all of our telephone asset inventory in here. So, for example, if I click on name change on a telephone, if I type in my extension, 8146 is mine, it automatically populates all the information, the Ethernet address of the phone, the model that I have, and I can now type in the new name to display on the phone, change the building. We have comprehensive building inventories. This stuff is live integrated into our facilities management systems. So when buildings come or go or titles change, this information updates. When I can either submit the order now or add it to a cart. And this integrates directly with the APIs of our telephone system and changes the name on the phone with no human intervention. Our goal is as much automation as we can to automate as much workflow as we can, including options on deleting existing voicemail messages, yes or no. That goes into the ShoreTel APIs to clear out mailboxes. So this is a form that faculty will use, for example, or that staff will use to reassign a number to someone else. Just erase the voicemail. No calls to us. It just happens. Looking at a couple other things that we are doing in here. We are now doing all of our employee leave in this system. We're doing a Be Well employee activity tracking system. So employees can register for a Be Well program. You can submit activities in here and get I've walked 600,000 steps. If you do that in 3 months, click to add supporting documentation so you can upload documentation into this. You do a fitness assessment, it awards 50 points, add some documentation that you went there. This goes to a workflow. Once all the checklists are complete, this will generate a $140 payment back to the employee that they can do up to twice a year, every 6 months, for health incentives. And so we do workflows in there. Let me bring up a. We have all of our employee leave in here as well. So employees are able to request leave, look at leave requests, bring up a department calendar. For example, here's information technologies leave for the month of June. So I can look in and see who already has approved leave. When leave is approved, this automatically integrates with Banner. This feeds the leave data for the payroll systems in Banner. People can look at your request leave, does all the workflow through managers and other pieces. Folks are able to check who their leave managers are. They're able to go in, departments can manage their own leave managers. So a unit can go in and can update an employee supervisors in their own area. So ServiceNow also creates a supervisory management system, essentially, that departments can manage on their own. We are also doing a number of, let's see. Let me just bring up the test instance in here real quick. So we're doing a lot of this for students. We're doing it for parking and transportation. We're also doing it for departmental forms. College of Agriculture is now developing their own workflows in there. Land request forms. Selecting different farms and different areas. When they select a farm, it automatically changes the approver names down here of the workflow. We're able to outsource workflow development on this service catalog, which is, of course, now much more than IT, out to other groups. Just to give you, we're in facilities, we're doing all of our key requests for Prox card access in here. This is a view in the back end that essentially shows the workflow of, let me bring up the key request. The key request workflow, the back end is a simple K system that our facilities unit uses. We're actually running scripts on site, inside of simple K, in order to validate who has what keys where. When keys are approved, it automatically makes entries in the third-party systems. This is a fairly complex workflow, lots of conditions, lots of integration. If then's in development. We also use this for our network jack tracking. We replace this with Pinnacle. We used to use Pinnacle for all of our jack to switch to closet, phone to jack to switch to closet mapping. ServiceNow tracks all of that. We are doing all of our billing in here as well. my time's almost up. Let me just show you a couple of, we are able to provide, look at statistics on the number of workflows. Right now, we're able to, for example, look at, right now the number one used form in the prior month is the change of grade form, where we had 832 in requests in the last month. Change of grade is now fully automated. It goes through the workflow approvals. We'll actually change the grade in Banner. You don't have a workflow step where someone gets a notification that they now have to go into Banner and then manually type in their request. Be Well rewards, your departmental stuff, key requests, travel authorization, travel reimbursements, medical, new hires, employee termination, so on and so forth. So we're able to track. We're also able to track incidents by, group in IT. We're getting more incidents now, being escalated to our service desk team. We can see the university in has more open than the athletics group does. We have a full software ordering piece in here. We can track, software orders by title. As an employee on this, I can go to into the software sales type. I can look at previous purchase software. Here's the Microsoft Windows 7 Enterprise upgrade. How wonderful is that? If I click on download, this actually integrates with Box. So it will have me sign into our Box service. And it's now downloading up here in Box. So we're able to integrate ServiceNow to be our repository for large files, handles all the workflow, all the license keys. We have an incredible amount of development on this ongoing in departments all across. Our goal is to have this be an enterprise, a university-wide service catalog, not just IT, university-wide knowledge bases, not just IT. In fact, this will end up being the system that hosts the Utah System of Higher Education Concurrent Enrollment app. In the state of Utah, we have 8 separate institutions. All of those accept high school concurrent enrollment. Utah State will be building inside of ServiceNow a single, to use the marketing term, a single pane of glass. So all high school students will come to one web application in here. And it'll interface with the 8 institutions to do concurrent enrollment. And a lot of those pieces are coming. So my time is up at this point. So I'll open it up for questions.
Questions for Colin?
I'm just curious how many internal developers you have working on this.
So right now we have 2 full-time developers on this, but because it's a platform, and my philosophy with platforms is you don't have to come through IT to use a rapid development platform. So part of those 2 developers' time is to train departmental or unit level workflow developers. So if someone comes in, they can say, hey, we need this workflow, will IT develop it for us? We can say, yeah, sure, but here's our priorities, here's where you fit. Or we can, if you've got a developer, we can give them access to the platform, we can get them a little bit of training so that they can start developing their own platforms and leverage a lot of the pieces that we've already developed. Because a lot of this stuff is just graphical, drag and drop. We've got the supervisory pieces, the building pieces, the banner integration pieces. And so we are extending the platform development to units so that units don't have to wait for us, so IT isn't a road bump.
Yep.
Hey Eric, it's Jeff Eggley. I had just two questions. The first is, with the FTEs, are those costs in addition to the cost for ServiceNow that you showed earlier?
Yes.
And then the second, on your development, what was kind of the time frame to get a few things stood up where you're able to start using at least certain modules within it? What was that time frame?
Okay, so first question is our total expense in ServiceNow.
Right.
So we got two full-time employees, a little bit of supervisor project management overhead in that. I'd say about 3 full-time in that figure. Figure $75,000 a year salary on each of those. Add 45% to that. And then about 180, a little less than $180,000 a year to ServiceNow for the platform itself. To add that up, that's about where we're at for this. We are seeing a net savings. Our previous workflow solution K2, we were spending more with that in annual maintenance than we were with the ServiceNow. We are reducing through automation a lot of our effort in other areas because we don't need as much staff maintaining things. The other question was how much time to set it up. Most of the time is spent with business process analysis, not with the platform. We spend most of our time not talking about ServiceNow and most of our time talking about the business process and how to change it, how to make it more efficient, how it's going to work differently electronically. And that takes most of our time. Once we've got a project defined in a workflow, it depends on the complication. The complete annual leave system took us about 40 hours to implement of ServiceNow developer time once we worked through the project specification. The key request form, because of the integrations into Simple K, because of all of the exceptions and types, that one took us about a month to develop in the system. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Other questions? Thanks so much, Eric. Sorry I couldn't be here. And I assume somebody has Eric's slides, so I can. Or Eric, can you just email them to me?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. All right. While Chad's setting up, there was a question about the dinner. So normally we would do a single dinner at a single location. And I think Matt is worried that no restaurant can handle this large group. We did call Steamworks. They don't take reservations for large groups. But they said if somebody showed up 15 to 20 minutes early and said there was a large group on a Tuesday night, they could probably accommodate 20 we just asked for. So Scott was asking, because we have a long list of restaurants, and I'm going to actually propose we narrow that list for a group dinner. I'm kind of guessing just knowing Westnet as I do that maybe since we can take out. And, maybe I think the ones that sort of leapt out to me were actually the ones you sort of put at the top, Matt.
Yeah.
I mean, those are sort of your favorite, right? And gazpachos. So if we maybe narrow it to those 4 and split into groups of people 4, or if we get a count, we can see if they can accommodate that number. So I know some of you have families here. And yes.
Because gazpacho is the Mexican style. Mexican food, I'm going there.
So maybe Matt, I assume you can edit the sheet. Maybe we could just narrow this down. Maybe gazpachos and Steamworks We are having barbecue tomorrow night, so, you know, we can do barbecue. I can't remember what the other thing is.
Well, if we're contemporary, they got a burger.
So maybe if we just narrow to those four, and then Scott asked, well, you know, if you like all four, put your name on all four, which,
You said, yeah,
You
go ahead,
could.
so I did.
so we'll probably kind of have to narrow it down. Just take care of it. We'll see how it goes. So by the end of the day, hopefully it will be narrowed down. So you can put your name on more than one, and we'll just see which ones we can actually get a couple large groups in. And if you are going to bring a guest, which is, okay, then, you know, this is, you pay your own bills, right? So make sure that's clear. Kelly's our accountant, but, you know, we're not slowing the money. If you want to bring a guest, just put their name too, so we can get a count. So, okay. Now, Chad, it's all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Level check. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check. Okay, ready to have a concert here. So I'm very jealous of Eric after seeing that well-orchestrated solution of ServiceNow, diving deep into their banner system, getting rid of Pinnacle. I'm still a Pinnacle shop and can't wait to get away from them, but right now can't. Eric's got his facilities people tied in. We're not there. We're so far from where Eric is at DU, even though we're a ServiceNow shop. It really does give us something to look towards. If, you know, I really describe a lot of what Eric showed us as nirvana.
Hey, well.
Things have come together with Eric.
Find me.
So, Eric, if you can still hear me, real jealous of you guys out there. You're doing a great job.
Maybe
I wish we had that at DU.
You may have been misinformed.
So in lieu of that, I'm going to talk about provision
okay.
phones,
Not me. Okay.
soft phones, and
All
users
right.
using a tool we've just purchased. It's a software as a service called Stack 8.
All right.
This was the best thing I could come up with over a year ago when I realized we were provisioning things in a non-uniform way amongst my staff, causing a lot of support issues. And so I asked last Westnet if anyone here had a provisioning tool. And so I got assigned the PowerPoint today to talk to you about what we're up to at DU. And if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would get done. At DU, we have been on a Cisco solution for just a couple buildings for 8 years. The call manager, Unity connection, instant messaging and presence, and soft phone. So we've gone from version 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on some of them now. Any new building or remodel would get the Cisco solution, but a majority of our buildings remain on the PBX. Over time, we struggled with what usernames to build upon our ERP package, which is Banner at DU. And as everyone knows, there's lots of key variables in Banner on usernames and email addresses and user numbers and all sorts of things you can key on. We found early on when we were keying on the Banner ID in the soft phone client, if you had a list of people, you could see everybody's Banner ID. So quickly we got shut down on using Banner ID as a way to log into Cisco, and we moved to primary email address, which is a whole can of worms at DU in itself. People can have 3, 4, 5 email addresses. Which one is their primary? They knew, they didn't know, they might know. It's been a plaguing problem that really Office 365 has allowed us to clean that up with our integration of Banner into Active Directory and getting that more synchronized. But we were a very non-Microsoft shop for many years. We had .not t-shirts in our operations staff, not embracing Active Directory. Now we're 180 degrees the other way. We've fully embraced Active Directory, but meanwhile, we still run LDAP, and we run at Microsoft's LDAP. And then we have different feeds that feed out of Banner nightly, hourly on those, and certain variables and keys that have made it tough for me. And of course, on the Cisco side, you can only have so many characters in the call manager world and the Unity world. And those characters can exceed about 50 people at DU's total length of their email address that have very long last names, which can be problematic. So we, over the years, used a lot of scripts to convert buildings to unified communication. We tried to get the correct directory names. We then tried to associate those names with their physical phones and soft phones. We use Cisco's BAT tool, comes out of the box, to bring stuff in, bring it out, change something, put it back in. We use a script tool. I think I've got the correct URL. This is literally a tool that follows you in a GUI, and you record the whole thing. And once you record it all, you can use that as a template and then pull from a spreadsheet and make it go. So literally imagine an individual that has to do 20 clicks and steps. You can script that with this tool. I think I've got the right URL. And literally, this is how my switch tech was doing conversions. He'd fill a table of usernames. He'd fill a table of certain phone numbers. He'd hit go, and literally I'd watch this thing click 20 or 30 times to get one user built. And then it would do it again, and it would do it again. And this was the way with which we cut buildings over, and we are still somewhat using it, to be honest. I couldn't believe my eyes when I watched it happen one day. So, you know, it's good to convert a building, but if you've got MAC orders, you're adding or removing a phone, you're adding or removing a user, how do you really get that done? I found I had different team members doing it different ways. In the Cisco world, you got to be in Call Manager, you got to be in Unity, you got to be in IM Presence, then you got to go over to the PBX, then you got to forward the number, then you got to do this. A lot of steps to do a MAC order. So I needed a consistent provisioning method. I kind of identified quickly. And it was causing a lot of unnecessary attack or incidents coming into ServiceNow on people that couldn't log into Jabber, couldn't set the forward on their phone, couldn't set a soft button on their phone. Okay, you want to train everybody up on how to do this? Okay, send them to Cisco Call Manager class, send them to Unity class, send them to IM and Presence class. You're 5K plus into your worker being able to do that. We looked at the TAP solution in Call Manager that came in version 10. There's some promise there, but it has a bunch of idiosyncrasies. So I went to market. I asked people in this room and at Chico, what are the tools you're using to provision? Cisco's got a provisioning tool in their Prime Collab suite that honestly was, a lot of it was vaporware and they couldn't even demonstrate it to me. So we didn't really want to go with that early Cisco tool. Self-serve voicemail pin resets kill us. We get 10 a week. Someone forgets their pin, not their login to virtually log in, not their unified voicemail box in their inbox, but their actual pin from their phone. They use that method. A lot of users don't want the virtual pieces of voicemail. They like to just dial in using their handset to get their voicemail, and they seem to forget that pin often. So that was something we wanted to get into a self-serve model. If you're a Cisco person, you know this slide well. Okay, you want to build some devices in Call Manager for people. The phone on the desk starts with SEP. Oh, you want to log in with Jabber on Mac or Windows? That's a CSF. Oh, you want to use iPad, iPhone, or iTouch? That's a TCT. Oh, you want to use Jabber for Android, which I do? BOT. Oh, and then there's these generic tablet supports. That's TAB. One person could have all these device types in their profile in a Cisco Call Manager. Am I supposed to know this whole room, what type of device you might come into the environment on?
Yes, you can.
Okay, and if, in a lot of the Cisco ways, you had to license correctly to have enough of these to do that. So early on, it was a licensing thing. If you provisioned these, you were eating up licenses. So we've signed the Cisco Enterprise License Agreement where this is a moot point now. But I'm at a point, I don't want to have to ask users what kind of endpoint they have. If they're using a computer, a tablet, or an iPhone, I want to just be ready for them, is kind of where I was headed. So last year, we really stepped up the heat at DU. We're going to turn down the PBX. We're going to get funded correctly to go building to building, replace switches, replace handsets, and while we're at it, do the Wi-Fi. Aggressive schedule. We also signed the ELA. That bought us 5 years of time for unlimited licensing with Cisco. It was based on knowledge worker. I heard it earlier. The site licenses are where a lot of these companies are headed, and we worked hard with Cisco on lowering our knowledge count and really getting to the minimum, honestly, which was 2,000. So we just got under that with DU and qualified for the program. We stood up all new VMs with a project. We got rid of these 7-year-old hardwares. We're going to do some new voice services to replace everything we were doing on the PBX, which is it's an Astra solution, now Mitel, and its associated function. And as I uncoupled what that PBX did for us, there was a lot of services that it did that we have to replace. We divided the campus, which is about 85 buildings, and all the offsite locations into sequences. We use that for financial forecasting, ordering, and project pushes. And interwoven our facilities coming along saying we're going to build a building, we're going to remodel a building. So those had to be staged in between these sequences of buildings. So we combined Edge Access Refresh, WAP Access Refresh into a larger project initiative. This is a chart I came up with to talk about the phases of our project. Up top is new UCS hardware and data center 10 gig ports, getting off those physical servers to virtual. We did that last summer. Getting call managers to virtual, Unity connections to virtual, instant messaging to virtual. All these we were constrained on hardware because we didn't have the VMs to do it. We're on the latest versions. Expressways to replace the VCSs. StackGate is what I'm talking to you about today. New analog gateways to get rid of the analog ports off the PBX. Our phase 2 is emergency responder, Informacast, and Red Sky. That's kind of our 911 pieces. And phase 3 is telepresence server, conductor, TMS, and now expressway servers for Jabber guests. We've actually jetted ahead in the contact center. We're launching our first 2 contact centers next week. We haven't conquered eFax, and then we haven't conquered the SIP gateway, SIP provider problems that we all know take a long time to get there. But we've got to do all this to shut off the PBX. Here are all the building sequences. Just tried to get a list of all the buildings. How did I come up with it? A lot of dart throwing. A lot of let's get the students taken care of first. Really, the first sets of buildings were the 1 watt per dorm room initiative that was really big for us to get the Wi-Fi under control in the dorm rooms. So those drove a lot of the first buildings. We're sitting here in this section now. We have to still finish all these buildings here to be done with it. Aggressive schedule. So in comes Smacks. I found Smacks. I liked what I saw. I saw they were gold partner Cisco's. They're out of Montreal, Canada. So they're French and US. So you can create phones, speed dials, voicemails, do pin resets real easily without having engineers do the work. So I worked with them to ramp up on a licensing count. Even though I only wanted to license my staff, it turned into a user count of who had a Cisco phone, which we're ramping up month by month. So it's a SaaS service with an on-prem virtual machine. You can also purchase it as a managed service offering. The Smacks marketing folks helped me kind of come up with a couple slides we're going to run through real quick here. So 3 use cases I kind of came up with is, okay, I'm just going to add a new user with Jabber, IM Presence, and a soft phone, and that's an existing user. Then we're going to go through somebody leaving to you, DMAC. I've kind of learned the term DMAC. Someone leaves, so you're going to get rid of a phone, we're going to DMAC that. Okay, I didn't really know that term until I got in bed with Smacks on this. And then, okay, self-service voicemail. Now, there's other use cases that I can't show you here, but I've come to realize telephony and voice services is a consultancy business, not one shoe fits all. Eric's done a good job with a lot of real things that really happen there, but sometimes when someone gets fired, hired, moves, does this, it oftentimes takes a consultancy role with a hiring manager or the individual to really figure out what they want. And just because they think they know what they want doesn't mean always what they should get or should want. And so I've learned to respect the back and forth of voice services. Use case 1, we're going to add a new user. Okay, this is what the login looks like. This is on their demo. We've made this look a little like BU. You're going to look somebody up. This is a screen you'll get. You'll click into Add Edit, and you'll see a screen with their phone number, their voicemail box, and their directory number. This is how simple it is. You're literally clicking the phone, IM and Presence, and anything you're going to do. We're not really doing mobility or a single number reach yet, but we want to. But when you click these buttons under the hood, it's scripting out to the call manager, the IMP server, and the Unity box, all in one interface with click boxes. You go and grab either an available DID out of a pool that you've programmed into your pools. You give it descriptions. So while not as slick as Eric's example in ServiceNow, but you're really kind of doing the similar things in this tool real quickly. and you're adding the user. So you're done. Okay, that can still take 10 screens and 3 servers if you want to go do it the Cisco way. And unfortunately, it is what it is. I didn't write all those Cisco servers and application front ends. I mean, it is what it is. And you can argue with it. You can say it's confusing. It is what it is. So we're going to DMAC somebody. Somebody's leaving to you. You go in. You hit delete. You're done. That phone goes into a mode of being available to be reassigned. The extension can be reassigned. I wouldn't say that's going to cover every situation, because usually you're going to refill that employee maybe with the same number, maybe with a new number, we don't know. And so they have this licensing optimizer where they identify things that are assigned with someone. That's a big problem I'm having now. We have these devices out there that aren't assigned to anybody. Self-service pin reset, log in, we'll customize this to DU. Okay, you're gonna do your own new pin. Success, you're done. That's where I want to be with voicemail pin resets. And we're not done. There's a little bit more development here, but this seems pretty easy. So I've learned from this whole project, more than just Stack 8 and more than just provisioning, that you really need to vet out your LDAP or AD integration into your call manager environment, or any VoIP environment for that matter. You need to test it, test it, test it. Finally, with VMs, we can have test call managers and test directory integration and not affect production. We couldn't do that before. User adoption and support will be critical based on how easy it is to log into things. This is a big one. I'll tell you, we went round and round with this, and with all those boxes I drew, there's a lot of products, and the way in which we do locations at DU is pretty ugly. And I have a screenshot of that in a Visio that I'm almost scared to show you on how we do it at DU, how we turn on a new building, how we add it in 10 places, some of which are fed by banner feeds, some of which are not, some are standalone. But it trickles down to how we do voice at DU, how we do locations, how we do 911, how we do reporting. So I'm at a point now, we have device pools in the call manager. Those are now mapped to dedicated VLANs and IP space, which helps you with 911. Then you're going to go out and define ELINs. Then, of course, you need paging groups if you want to page people. And all this really is a database and a mapping together that's going to help you later with reporting and management, even back into this Stack 8 product. I didn't show you a screenshot where you're picking where this person is. This has taken us a while. So what's next for us? We're going to train our staff. We just got this box up and running. I'm not here to talk about success yet. I'd love to get this self-serve voicemail pin reset up by fall. Losing a staff member at the end of the month that does a lot of this now. I'm going to reduce the number of incidents coming in. When I cut a building over, I expect people to be able to log in and change their forwarding, to change a hot button on their own phone, and to reliably get into Jabber consistently. We're doing a Skype for Business trial also. You can reliably log in with your AD credentials, and every time it works. We need the same on the Cisco side, okay? Job titles was another one, comes over on AD, wasn't coming over on Cisco. We got that into the feed now. So today, Smacks doesn't do bulk. So if I'm going to cut a building over, which I am this week, 20 phones, I'm still not using Smacks to do that bulk stage and import. We're still using the other older method to at least get the building ready. And then you put dummy phones on desks. You've got their old phone, new phone, and now you're going to cut that building over in the morning. I'm still using the other tool with screen clicking, which I can't believe it, but we're doing it. And that's the dirty laundry of the conversion, one building at a time. Put a lot of links. These top 3 were the developer pieces. Cisco has embraced several companies in the collaboration space. They admit their own product isn't the best. There's a lot of good companies writing good code that interfaces to the call managers and other Cisco areas. Stack 8's on that list. I also looked hard at the TAPS approach. This Net Craftsman company out of Virginia, they're another VAR. They've got a great article on the TAPS method, and we've looked at that. We've looked at methods where you plug the phone in and you do some things on the button on the phone, and that's the way you're going to register, and that's the way the conversion will occur. But It isn't as slick, I think, as the smacks for the Mac. That's all I got today. Questions?
Does it have a billing piece at all?
The question was, does it have a billing piece? No. Today, when I have a PBX Mac order, I do it in Pinnacle. We do the work, the 911 record, we get it ready, and then Pinnacle today at month end does a GL transfer into Banner. Struggling when I move a VoIP phone. What am I doing? Am I charging? Am I not charging? What if the building's already outfitted? We're looking very hard at recharging right now. We have a proposal in place to maybe eliminate Mac order recharging, eliminate monthly recharges for voice and long distance and voicemail. It is not approved yet. We hope to have this in place by January 1. That would get me out of the billing business for many things that I think we could be out of. I do understand the regulatory nature of tracking 911 and understanding where phones are and people moving phones around. The Cisco Emergency Responder product, if done correctly, set up correctly, database correctly, tied to, in my case, Red Sky for a software as a service, if done right, planned right, which I think I'm on the path, moves as and changes will work for the most part automatically with location updating. Still to be seen if that's going to happen, but I believe it is. And I want to get out of that. If I can get out of the billing business and I've got an automated way to move phones around and it's going to update the location, what's left? You know, can I be a more efficient shop of moving phones? And that's kind of to be determined, and I'm trying hard.
Other questions?
Colin?
I was just curious, this utility that watches the plates, is it resolution dependent? You know,
I don't know that answer. Yeah, I don't know. But there's a bunch of people that swear by the tool. I don't know how it does its magic, but it's pretty slick.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
So before Kelly starts, and if you haven't been to Westnet before, you know it's kind of a stream of consciousness kind of meeting. So I had seen a presentation at I2, you were at I2, the Fortinet secure data at the ASU. I thought we were moving forward with Jay presenting. I have not heard confirmation from him. So we may end up with a half hour right after lunch. And I bring this up because we can either take a longer lunch and finish at 5:45. We would not normally finish this late, but we have a lot of topics. Or we can just take our half hour lunch, get back, and move everything up a half hour, we'll end early. So is there a vote for a longer lunch or ending early? Okay, all right, then you have a half hour for lunch, you have to move it along, and I'm assuming I've emailed him, I'm assuming he's not presenting. I apologize for not getting that confirmed. I have been emailing him regularly, just not where he actually responded to me. So Kelly, you're up.
Okay. 3 minutes here to finish. Sit up.
I have to share it after you're done.
Okay.
Get out of here for a second.
Yeah. Okay. Go back to the first line. Back to the first line. Okay, hear me all right? Thanks for the opportunity to present to you today. It's been an interesting 6 months for me in preparing for this discussion. I had the best of intentions of starting right after the last Westnet. But I think I started on Thursday last week. Something like that. Okay. Is that the way it always goes? These presentations. And I'm supposedly retired. In any case, I've been presenting for a while now on topics of interest concerning architecture and how we utilize it in the West and how it impacts us. I thought for this session, especially because of its nature, this is the 30th anniversary of Westnet, that perhaps we talk about the actual architecture of Westnet and some specific aspects of that architecture. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Westnet the next 20 years. It's fine to be talking about Westnet in the sense that this is our 30th anniversary, and there's several of us here. I'm not sure what happened to Pat. Mike was at the first meeting. I was at the first meeting. Pat was at the first meeting. I don't think anyone else here was. It's great to be talking about this history, but I think that the most important and critical topic that we could discuss is what's going to happen for the next 20 years in Westnet. How will Westnet survive for the next 20 years? And I've got some things to say about that. I'd like to have some of your input on what you think about it as well. So about early sometime last week, I started digging out my books. I've been using these for more than 30 years to record my sessions that I've attended and training and whatever. So I put them into 5-year piles. I think that's what that was. Actually, they go back before Westnet. The first Westnet meeting was on April 1st, 1986. I've been digging through all these things. So I found a little bit of history that might be of interest to you, just to get started in this architecture discussion. First of all, for the first 7 years or so, too bad Pat had to step out because he's obviously a big part of this. Pat started this endeavor. For the first 7 years, Westnet was a physical network, and we actually had circuits, and we had little boxes over there on the corner at each of our institutions. And so, in some sense, Westnet was like a semi-annual board of directors meeting. And we all went to Westnet, and we would talk about how the network performed. And we had those that were managing the network giving reports, and they'd give us their future plans. We'd vote on them, and that's kind of the flavor of what Westnet was like. But it seemed like we started having a little bit of extra time, so gradually we used the spare time slots between these network reports to describe the other problems that we were facing in our institutions. And they got to become more and more of the norm. The last physical circuit was phased out in about 1996 or so, as best I could tell from my notebooks. So we asked ourselves the question, and Pat did on January 19th, 1996. He said, "With or Westnet, or are we going to continue?" And in fact, I didn't write up this quote. He said, "I suspect that we will probably ramp down Westnet and terminate its existence in the next year or so." This was in 1986. Well, we've been asking whether Westnet every meeting since then. And here we are 30 years later. No physical network. We are an affinity group. We meet together for some very special purposes, and that's part of its architecture that I want to talk about a little bit today. For the last 20 years, this has been since the physical network. We've had these experiential sharing presentations like Chad just presented. I thought that was a great one from that perspective. Attendees are encouraged to participate. It's mostly attendees. We do have a few external presenters from other institutions, other organizations. There are stakeholders. It is us. There is synergy. There is structure. 5-minute madness. What are you doing about? We have this structure associated with Westnet. There are inputs, presentations, data. There are outputs, ideas and dialogue. And Westnet has a purpose. What does that sound like to you? Sounds like a network. But in a generalization, what is a network? Isn't it a system, right? Has all of those attributes that make Westnet a system, in my opinion. So I'd say yes, Westnet is clearly a system that we can structure and we can manage it somewhat as a system, and we can grow it, and we can make it more effective. That's what architecture is all about. It's finding out what those aspects are and improving them. Okay? So in fact, I would suggest that Westnet is a platform. Not only is it generally a system, it's a platform that we can build on top of. Now, a year ago, during the Westnet meetings in Boise, I introduced this concept that perhaps Westnet is a platform that we could build our own systems on top of. And so I've observed over this past year 3 or 4 Westnet dialogues that are focused on a shared problem-solving approach, which gives me some reason to believe that this is the purpose of this platform, of this system. And in fact, the latest one, I'm trying to think, there was conversation surrounding, what was just a dialogue that was just the last few weeks or so. Chad, do you recall what that was about? You participated a couple of times, I think.
Look it up quickly.
Yeah, that's fine. In any case, we have these dialogues that happen between the meetings, and it's because of trust, isn't it? We trust each other. That our colleagues within this institution, within this organization, within this system platform, will help each other. And so we look for opportunity to dialogue and to give direction. I found in my past experience, in the past 20 years or so of this kind of activity, there have been a number of problems which we have solved at BYU utilizing input directly from Westnet colleagues. I suspect you have too, right? It's one of the important aspects of this activity. In fact, I believe that each of you attends Westnet to either find solutions, share them, or both. Now, how many of you are here for the first time? That's a good number. All right. How many have been coming for more than 10 years? Pretty good number as well, right? And everything in between, right? I'm going to ask some questions. James, why are you here today?
The bottom goal is the number one thing. I've found more people doing things that we wanted to do, try and learn from what they've succeeded and failed at. The network is fantastic, but it's been a huge help in helping me guide what we do back home just by sharing and learning from my peers.
Most notably is this latest Elk stack implementation, which you've worked with BYU on. Right? So you're relatively new, 3 or 4 years you've been attending, something like that. Scott, you've been here a lot longer than that. Why are you still here?
I find it a useful opportunity to either confirm that we're on the right path or maybe consider new paths we hadn't considered before.
Okay.
The networking piece, I think, is really it.
All right. So maybe this is some validity to this architecture. Two of you raise your hands for the first time. That's why I hand it over here. Phil. What's your name again? You.
Yes, I was just making sure you weren't going to warm my phone. My name is Brian Bull from Boise State University.
Brian Bull from Boise. Okay. Why are you here?
Well, changing job roles last year, and Max Davis in our CIO, and Matt O'Brien here said this is really something that I need to get connected with and understand more about how this group operates and how we can benefit from it, from the networking side and also just in general, what are some best practices that we need to be aware of.
Okay, so they saw some value in it, suggested to you that there would be some value in it, and you felt like I ought to try this and see. Okay, very good. Okay. Any other comments from either old timers, as far as being Westnet, or brand new? Marla.
I don't have a comment, I have a question. So this trust thing is something I've been thinking about recently, and just general as an activity purpose. And how do you build that trust, and how do you maintain that trust? Because we do have new people coming in, we have people retiring. Apparently Brian the other retired, didn't tell me. We do have people leaving and new people step in, and somehow by default, you have a certain amount of trust just because they're coming from organizations and there is a history. That building trust and maintaining trust, I mean, you've been here for a long time, so you've had to meet a lot of new people. I mean, how do you think you establish that?
Good question. And this is off the top of my head. I think it just takes time. I've seen some of you twice a year for close to 30 years. And that by itself just builds trust. And it's not just in this meeting. It's at the dinners, right? It's at the breaks. It's going out and just collaborating a bit around the break. And someone says something interesting in the meeting and you go up and ask them a question. From my perspective, that's the most effective answer to your question, Marla, is that kind of activity. Now, this past 6 months, I've been associated with the quilt a fair amount. The quilt's an organization similar to Westnet. It's more formal, the regular corporation. But I observe they have a number of tenets, a formal vision statement. And their first vision statement is pretty much this very issue. Here they collaborate. Their formal statement is we collaborate. And even though there's not 100% agreement on the other aspects of the quilt's mission or vision, that one key foundation is it. They all believe in that. And I think that's really what this whole organization is all about, is that one statement. We collaborate in some sense, and it's so that we can find solutions, share them, or do both. And the ones that are most, I'm going to say, happy with their membership, excuse me, I'm supposed to be in the middle of that. There we go. The most happy with their membership are those that do both. They both find solutions here and they share them. Okay? Yes, James.
So Marla's question brought up a point that I wanted to share here too. You asked how do we build the trust? And so as a fairly new attendee of Westnet and coming up here, one of the things that probably helped me put trust in a lot of trust very quickly in this group is honesty. I have had presentations where I've done this, and I've watched presentations when I've witnessed this. People stand up here and say, we did this and it didn't work. How many VAR meetings are you going to be in? They're going to say, none. And that was a big key for me, is saying, here's somebody that's willing to stand up here and say, we tried this and it failed, or we tried this and it didn't go as planned and all that. And that is hard to find. So for me, that was a huge value.
Good, thank you. Yes.
I was just going to add that from those sort of presentations, you also get a sense of how the mind of the presenter works, where they're focused, what details they focus on, what I think is important, and so you can sort of, I think, relatively quickly figure out, I asked this person about such and such an issue or whatever. They're thinking about the same kinds of issues that I'm thinking about, security or privacy or finances or whatever it is.
So some of the discussion of synergy of what we're doing is similar. But I think there's this other issue of just being together makes a big difference. I think that if Westnet is going to continue for the next 20 years, I'm hopeful to come back to a 50-year reunion. I hope. This phenomenon must increase. We've got to all be finders, sharers, and do both, in my opinion. Okay? Right, here's some examples of platforms. We are very prolific about talking about technology platforms, right? Here's IPv6. We're all still in the process of implementing various stages of it. It's a technology platform in some sense. And we do those kinds of technology-specific things, but it's not the only kind of platform. There are process-centric platforms. Eric Colley just talked about ServiceNow, which has a lot of process centricity. It not only is a technology platform, but also a process-centric platform. But there are people-centric platforms, and we're talking about one today. For example, BYU has an employee mentoring program. It's a platform that they build expertise and growth on top of. And it's largely, the system is largely composed of people and their relationships. I would suggest that Westnet is a people-centric platform whose purpose is solution share. We share solutions. I'd like to propose that that's our purpose statement. We share solutions. Can you all memorize that? Right? A purpose statement is best known if you can memorize it. You don't have to write it down somewhere. You don't have to put it on the hat, right? It's we share solutions. That's our purpose. And so how can you help Westnet last for the next 20 years? How can each of you do that? Well, first one would be to participate. So each of you should figure out some way that you can participate in helping Westnet grow, in a sense, right? Now, the easiest way for that is to volunteer. Well, we build trust with each other, and we do that by volunteering to participate. Right? Marta's going to have, for those of you that are new, she's going to have a session right near the end where she's asking for next meeting's agendas items. And that's typically the case. If you suggest an agenda item, you will probably give it, right? That's okay. Just expect that, right? What would you be thinking between now and Thursday morning? What would you like to present on? And then raise your hand and suggest it. And I can tell you with pretty clear accuracy, you probably will present. Is that right, Jen?
It is.
All right.
You can try to rope others in, and they may respond and they may not.
Yeah. I like the what you state model. Recruit other problem solvers from your institution to participate, right? I'm just using the term problem solvers because in a sense we are all problem solvers. Right? Look for others that could benefit from this participation, especially when Westnet comes close to you, because at least we try and move around a bit within the region, right? And so as I see here at Fort Lewis College, you've got a pretty good representation. So recruit other problem solvers, and especially recruit other institutions within your state. These are not all of the higher ed institutions that are amongst us. And I suggest that all of you have colleagues at these institutions and suggest to them that Westnet might be a worthwhile endeavor because we solve problems. We share problems, right? We share problems. I just messed up my own memorization. We share solutions. We share solutions. It'll happen when you retire, right? Okay, so here's another one. Let's leverage our domain name. On September 14th, 1989, Pat registered westnet.net. How many of you would like to see what that looks like? There it is. It's on the top tier of Google sites. I can't remember who came up with the little moniker at the top. I think it was Daryl Eschbach, I think. In any case, even though this does go to the page that Marla's group maintains, the rest of it's pretty aged. And I would suggest that here's one very easy, low-hanging fruit that we could tap to help leverage our purpose of sharing solutions. Is to use our website. If I can close that down. Now, we've already demonstrated this past year how we could actually make it more successful, that website. One way is by leveraging student labor. We've proven with the production of our new logo that student labor can help a great deal. So I think if we enlisted students at our institutions to help in this creation of this new expanded website to help in our efforts and endeavors, it would be useful. Also, through shared responsibility, that means each institution would have some aspect that they would be responsible for in that website to deal with. So one might take care of the membership information, and another might take care of some other aspect of the website. We can talk about that. But I'm proposing that we leverage our domain name, westnet.net, and make it more effective in accomplishing our purpose. I'll talk to you about this for just a second about an organization called SHARE. Share is an organization that some of you may know about. Okay, it's been around since 1955, and so from 1955 till today is 60 years. I'd like to propose that Westnet could live for 60 years, just like Share has. Now, Share did this based on one single premise, that IBM customers share solutions. Right? And they did it by sharing code. There was a Share library, if you will, and in the early days of my career, I spent a fair amount of time perusing the Share library, looking for code bases to develop applications on top of. And Share still does that. For those of you that think Linux is the first open source shared operating system, are wrong. It was the SOS, the shared operating system, the Share operating system in 1959 that came from this group. This organization is still in operation, 20,000 members, and of course they specialize in IBM mainframe solutions. But I like very much this logo: Share, educate, network, influence. That's the purpose statement, right? We could be as effective as Share in Westnet. Let's build a Westnet sharing library. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's a library to share code, right? We already have a lot of those. GitHub is probably the most useful, I suspect. So I'm not proposing that. We might do some of that, possibly, but that's probably not the real purpose, nor is it a library for sharing designs. I'm suggesting that this is a library for sharing architectural guiding principles. All right? Now you might ask, what are they? And here's some examples. They are timeless statements of value or importance that point us toward the right solution domain for the problem we're trying to solve. Now here's an example. This is one of my clients. They call it the consume principle. I asked them if I could use this, and he said, as long as you just tell who they are. So we favor consuming proven, mature cloud services from proven, mature partners. We prefer consuming cloud services to building or buying them. We favor consuming cloud services in suites from the same provider, which keeps the burden of tool integration with the partner, not with us, right? Now that's a guiding principle, and it's an architectural guiding principle, right? It guides an architecture for the finding solutions, right? What it does is essentially, these are nuggets of wisdom that changes our questions from why should I do this to why shouldn't I, right? It's kind of like, why shouldn't I use that other member of that suite in my solution sharing, right? It's just a different way of thinking about problem solving. This guiding principle helps us to do that. Now there are architectural guiding, there are organizational guiding principles, and there are problem solving principles. And probably what we will do mostly in Westnet, if we share these, would be to provide problem solving principles to each other, okay? Here's another one. This one's called least privilege. Now, this one's probably more of an organizational one, I suspect. Principle of least privilege requires that in a particular abstraction layer, every module must be able to access only the information and resources that are necessary for its legitimate purpose. Does your organization practice that principle? Probably, but they don't necessarily think about it explicitly. I'm aware of a group that is talking about solutions now that violates this principle, and this is their principle. And so I guess I'm just wondering how effective that is at this particular institution as far as this principle. But it's a way of gracefully expressing concern. Did you know that what we're planning on doing violates one of our principles, one of our organizational guiding principles? Enough said. All right, here's some examples of timeless principles. I've got a few minutes. How about this one? For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. That's a timeless guiding principle. Where does it come from? This one is timeless. It comes from Proverbs, okay? So they can come from anywhere. How about this one? The coupling principle. As things get larger, they often exhibit increased interdependence between components. Do any of you practice this principle? Right? Where does it come from? Can you quote its chapter and verse? Well, it took me a while. It is RFC 3439. It was issued in December of 2002. But we still practice it, right? It's timeless. That makes it a good guiding principle. How about this one? It is better for everyone to get consistent amount of throughput versus a few clients getting burst speeds once in a while.
Sounds like
What was that, Warren?
that sounds like this open network FCC discussion.
Yeah, it sounds like all those things, doesn't it? This came from Chad Burnham. Westnet presentation. January 7th, 2016, Tucson, Arizona. And
Is it still timeless?
it's,
I don't know.
it feels timeless to me. All right. So what would this mean to you then? As you do your work, start thinking about what are the underlying principles that guide this solution, okay, the solution you're working on. When you are building your Westnet presentation, think about how you would create a summary slide that documents your message into a pithy and timeless nugget of advice to your college, just like Chad does. Now, did you notice his presentation today did exactly that? He had a lessons learned set of guiding principles, right? Chad's good at that. And submit your summary slide to the Westnet sharing library for inclusion into the Westnet set of guiding principles. And I'm volunteering to maintain that Westnet set of guiding principles. So if you will submit to me your list, your slides, your whatever you might put it in, I will put together a set of guiding principles library that will be part of the Westnet, the new Westnet page that Marla didn't hear about because she was out of the room when we were talking about it. And then,
The question is, when is David Wood going to let me manage the Westnet?
that's a good question. So then you can reap the satisfaction of knowing that you saved some poor problem solver from weeks of pain and failure because you thought more deeply about the lessons that you learned. Okay. Questions or comments? And then I've got a treat for you. Any questions or comments? Okay, give me 5 minutes. 3 more minutes. Go ahead, Paul.
Paraphrase it badly, but I would advocate for on that list, the one of yours that was to the effect of make sure that your efforts at abstraction do not hide complexity.
Good. I'll extract all of my guiding principles and I'll add them to the library. Thank you for that. Okay. The last thing I wanted to show you is that can you put the slides back for just a second? Sure. In my perusing all of these notebooks, these are some that I found for the last 30 years from some of you. And I've lost this. Maybe I need to. Yeah. Okay. So this is from Ken Clean's. Shibboleth is a biblical term for password. He said that on January 18th, 2000. All right. Next. How about from Pat Burns, June 6, 1996? ATM works great.
The ATM or
ATM. In those days, we were thinking that's the wave of the future. Next. All right, I don't know who said this. With enough thrust, anything can fly. We gotta add that one anyway. This sounds true. Okay. I wanted to comment on Bob. Bob gave a great help desk presentation on June 17th, 1998. And my comments was, that sounds great to me. All right, next. How about this? David Wood. Team is important. Is there not a better guiding principle than that? Next. All right, that box over there, its maintenance in 1991 was $28.50 per year. Somebody said that. And so that box was free from NSF, and they paid $2,800 per year to Cisco. That was our cost in 1991. Is that their cost today?
Kelly?
Yes.
RFC 1925, with enough thrust, pigs can fly.
No.
Next. All right, Dave, it's your turn. Okay. Dave, back in July 9th, 2003, open source PBX called Asterisk. Everything is in the same box. Remember that, Dave? Next. Virtual firewalls from Cisco with bleeding edge code. That was from What Are You Doing About, January 15, 2005. Next one. I had to stick this in. In 2005, I was making a 10-year plan. It was in my notebook. And I said, 2014, KCM retires and works as a consultant for 2 years. So I'm finishing that second year up now. Next. UView uses perfect go rate limiting and is pretty pleased with that feature. 5-minute manus, June 6, 2006. Mike, you still using perfect go? You know, so the time ended on this one. Okay, all right, next. Patch cost for SMS messages in 2008 was 6 cents per message. You believe that? We actually paid 6 cents a message back in those days.
Rave alert. That's what that is.
And last but not least, oh, I guess we have one more after this. Chad Burnham knows how to implement an Apple TV into classrooms. June 5th, 2012. Marlon Neal, put your cans and bottles into the correct recycling bin. Almost every meeting.
But we have these reusable mugs, so you can reuse them for your coffee and reuse them for your. And that's even better than recycling. You don't actually have to recycle it. So, yes, I am big into recycling. So, and the hotel actually has recycling bins in your room. So someday we'll see that. And someday the neighbors will actually leave my towel alone. The sign that says leave my towel alone. I find that very irritating. They say, we want to be environmentally sound, we don't want to wash your towel. If you hang it on the rack, we'll leave it there. And then they all take the towels that are hanging on the rack.
Yeah, they did anyway.
What is the point of this? So, thank you, Kelly. I'm hoping Kelly's next prediction that he's only been in for 2 years is wrong. We'd like to have Kelly around a little bit longer. And if you don't know, Kelly is doing all of the accounting for the Westnet group, and he's doing it very well with his wife, I think, helping. And we really appreciate it because it's been great working with him and very easy for Eileen and I to deal with that. He's very responsible, and I trust him. So hopefully you all trust him too. All right, lunch is in the room. Grab it, either eat back in here or you're welcome to use the tables outside. We decided not to put tablecloths on so we did offer tablecloths. And please try to get back. Let's go for like 1:05. And Scott, you're up. Let's come back. Well,